The Motor Dream podcast is recorded on Camaragal land of the Eora Nation. It always was and always will be the lands of the First Nations of Australia.
This is the Motor Dream podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 30 of the Motor Dream podcast. I'm Connor McNally and this is the show where we can dream just a little about what our dream garage would be if money was no issue whatsoever. Since this podcast series began, I've been very fortunate to have been able to chat with some wonderfully talented people across all realms of the motorsport and motoring landscape. On this episode, I recently caught up and chatted with a young woman from Melbourne who has been making huge waves on her journey to make it into Formula One, embarking on her maiden campaign in the F1 Academy series. Before we get into the interview proper, here's the premise of what this is all about. I tell my guests that one day they wake up to discover that they've received a text telling them that they have to check their bank balance. They then open up their bank app and they suddenly discover that they're instant billionaires. As soon as they discover their newfound fortune, they get an email from this mystery benefactor that tells them that they can spend anything that they like and buy any car, bike or machine that they want. There is a catch though. They are only allowed 3 cars, bikes or machines in their dream garage. It sounds easy, doesn't it? But as my previous guests have discovered, it is very, very hard to decide. As always, be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast itself on your favourite podcast platform and make sure you leave a review and tell us what you think of the show. And also, be sure to follow us on our socials, which we'll tell you more about at the end of the show. 2025 marks a significant milestone in the history of Formula One as it celebrates its 75th anniversary. The sport has come a hell of a long way from the very first World Championship race held at Silverstone on May 13, 1950, not just with track and driver safety, but also the cars and the people who have raced them. Even the media coverage has changed substantially from the days when television was in its infancy and the only reliable source of information was through print media and newsreels. Nowadays, mass saturation of social media, a 24/7 news cycle, and wall-to-wall television broadcasts have brought the sport closer to the fans more than ever before. Yet amazingly, of the 781 drivers from 41 nations that have contested Formula One, only 5 women have raced at the top echelon of the sport, heavily dominated by men. And of those 5 women, only 1 driver has scored World Championship points, and that was the late Lella Lombardi. It has been 33 years since a woman last entered and attempted to qualify for a Formula One Grand Prix, when Italy's Giovanna Amati drove for the once mighty Brabham team, which by then was facing financial oblivion. Since then, despite numerous attempts, no woman has been successful in reaching that top echelon. But Formula One is hoping to change that. In recent years, there's been a huge push for the sport to become more inclusive and allow more opportunities for women to be able to achieve their dream of racing in Formula One. It first gained momentum with the now-defunct W Series, which first hit the tracks in 2019, supporting the F1 calendar, until its sudden demise near the end of 2022. It was the first all-female racing series of its kind, which allowed women of all ages the opportunity to impress on a world stage in identical vehicles. And despite some criticism from some people who said a series such as this was unnecessary and would do more harm than good, it gave them a platform that put them front and centre of the Formula One community. When the W Series did come to an abrupt end, Formula One wasn't going to let a concept slip away into obscurity. And with the full support of all 10 Formula One teams, it created the F1 Academy series. Since making its debut in the 2023 season, F1 Academy has made a huge impact. Drivers such as Abby Pulling, Tina Hausman and Leah Block not only represent Alpine, Aston Martin and Williams in the series respectively, but they also have driver development contracts with those teams, bringing the dream of a woman racing in Formula One much closer. And in 2025, the impact of the F1 Academy has reached Australian motorsport. Around the time of the Formula One Australian Grand Prix in March of this year, there was an air of excitement from within the motorsport community and beyond, when 17-year-old Melbournian Aiva Anagnostiadis was named as the brand ambassador and driver of the TAG Heuer entry run by the high-tech team. She is joined on the grid by fellow Australian Joanne Ciccone. Having started her career at the age of 6, Aiva stepped up to the professional ranks at the age of 12, and her talents were already catching the eye of many within the sport. In 2021, she won the Australian Ladies Trophy at the Australian Karting Championships, and 1 year later she represented Australia at the FIA Motorsport Games. She transitioned to cars in 2023, where she tested a Formula Ford in Western Australia before relocating to Europe with her family and raced in the Indian Having started her career at the age of 6, Aiva stepped up to the professional ranks at the age of 12, and her talents were already catching the eye of many within the sport. In 2021, she won the Australian Ladies Trophy at the Australian Karting Championships, and 1 year later, she represented Australia at the FIA Motorsport Games. She transitioned to cars in 2023, where she tested a Formula Ford in Western Australia, before relocating to Europe with her family and raced in the Indian Formula 4 Championship. It was there where she was talent spotted by Alpine and was signed to their Race Her Academy program for 2024. And now in 2025, she represents one of the biggest lifestyle brands on the biggest sporting stage in the world. For Aiva, this is an opportunity that she's been dreaming of ever since she started racing as a young kid in karting. It also helped that her family were as passionate about motorsport as she was. Her mother, Barbara, is an accomplished kart racer who has raced on the national scene for many years, and her dad, Adam, is the team mechanic for the family team, all whilst running a successful mobile concrete pumping business in Melbourne. Racing is also in the blood of her brother, James, who has been successful in the junior ranks of karting on both state and national level and was vice champion of the OK Junior class in last year's FIA Karting World Championship. Recently, he's been signed by Mercedes-AMG as a junior driver as he continues to rise up the ranks. I caught up with Aiva just prior to the recent Formula 1 Miami Grand Prix, where she would fly the Australian flag in F1 Academy alongside Ciccone, plus Formula 1 drivers Oscar Piastri and Jack Doohan on the streets of Miami. So without further ado, it's great to have Aiva Anagnostiadis on the Motor Dream podcast. Aiva Anagnostiadis, welcome to the Motor Dream podcast, all the way from your European base in Italy. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
How has Formula 1 Academy been so far for you? I mean, it's been an absolute whirlwind since the announcement that you were to drive for TAG Heuer, representing the TAG Heuer brand, driving for High Tech, one of the leading teams in the junior Formula, and to be on the grid with so many talented women in probably one of the biggest stages in world sport. I mean, it's been quite an overwhelming experience for you in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I think from when I got told that I had the seat to now, everything's just gone so fast. And I got told that I had that seat on the 1st of December. So obviously before it got announced. But yeah, it just kind of feels like it was yesterday that I got told that I was going to be racing in F1 Academy. And now we've already done 2 rounds and I'm heading to Miami in a day. So, you know, it's gone quite fast. I've had to try and develop as fast as we can, obviously, because we haven't been able to do as many laps behind the scenes as some of the girls have done. But, you know, the High Tech's been really great. We're working with them really closely, just trying to get the car up to speed. Obviously, they're kind of 2 years behind the other teams with this car just because we haven't been in the championship before. And then having TAG Heuer as a partner as well, being a part of that family, it's amazing. It's such an honor.
It is a big honor, and as you said, you're representing one of the biggest, I guess, brand names in the world. That's also the official timekeeper for Formula 1. I mean, it's a big responsibility to not only be a representative of a woman in motorsport, but also to be a brand ambassador, to be a positive brand ambassador. I mean, it's a huge responsibility for you to step up and to be that ambassador and be in a positive light to so many women and so many young people growing up watching Formula 1 and wanting to aspire to be in the position that you and 14 other women are doing right now.
Yeah, I think when I got told it was TAG, I kind of didn't realize how big of a deal it actually was. And then I was so happy to be with such a brand that is involved with motorsport so deeply and heavily and for so many years.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of really hit me when we were in Shanghai because I went up to one of the pop-up stores and they had Max Verstappen's race suit, Ayrton Senna's race suit, and then my race suit in kind of a line.
Oh, wow.
And I kind of stood there and I was, that's my race suit behind Ayrton Senna's race suit. Like, I'm in that history. Like, I'm a part of this history now. So just to see that, it kind of hit me, and I was like, wow, this is really cool.
It must blow your mind that, for yourself, growing up in suburban Melbourne and now to be on the world stage, I mean, could you have ever imagined that being able to start in karting here in Australia, going over to India to race in Formula 4, and now getting the opportunity like you have now, would take you to places that you never imagined would be possible at such a young age, at 17?
I don't think I ever thought Europe was on the playing cards. I think we had kind of as a family planned out, all right, if you want to continue in cars, then we're going to go the V8 route because that's all we can afford. Europe's a whole nother kettle of fish. For me to have been here, we had to get the opportunity that we have, just because Australia is such a small motorsport community. So we did come and do a couple races overseas, try and get some kind of eyes on me and just, get my name out there a little bit. And then when I got the Alpine Race Her program with the karts, that kind of opened up all the doors when we were in touch with involved with the Alpine F1 team. You're racing over in Europe, you kind of have different people looking at you, and then we were like, okay, we want to get into cars. And my brother at the time had just got in the seat with Mercedes in their junior F1 program, so we had that connection with the Ron Meadows and the Meadows family, and they said, come on, we'll come do a couple test days with them in their Agenti F4 team. And then it kind of all just started, and we were like, okay, we're going to aim for F1 Academy because that's the only way we can keep going over here. And we pushed everything for it. We did as much as we possibly could to get the seat, and, it all paid off.
It's fantastic. It's great to see that you're not just yourself, but your family are thriving. And it's great to see as well that your family have been involved in the motorsport landscape for a long time. I'm just reading up on some of the things that have, what your family have done. Your mum has raced in karting professionally, and she's a very competitive driver from what I've read. Your dad's a mechanic as well. He's worked in a number of race teams in the past, and your brother, as you mentioned, has been racing in single seaters as well. So it really is firmly ensconced motorsport.
Yeah, I think mum's dad kind of got this all started, my grandpa, so I wouldn't probably be involved in motorsport. It wasn't him, but he actually bought a go-kart when mum was about 12 or 11 for himself, and obviously that didn't last long. It was mum's a couple of weeks later, and then they were just at the track, and then dad started mechanicking for her at the track from 16, 17, and then from then on in it was just motorsport. She did have an opportunity to go do a car test. She was quite good, but she just didn't have the money to fund it. So obviously that's kind of one of the tough things in motorsport. You need the funding and the backing to keep going. But she was very, very good. The majority of the trophies we have at the moment are hers in the storage unit. So me and my brother are trying to feed her, get as many as she had. But yeah, then I got involved and my brother got involved, and it's pretty much just our family hobby, and then now it's obviously taken really serious, but it's been our every weekend kind of family thing from as long as I can remember.
That's fantastic. But I was interested to read in a little bit of my research in the lead up to my chat with you. You actually didn't start with motorsport first and foremost. You actually were a dancer prior to that. So that's very interesting. You started dancing, then you take up motorsport, and then you had a career crossroads at a young age where you had to decide you either could be a professional dancer or you could go motorsport. And it seems to me the way things have gone, you've made the right choice to go with motorsport.
I think so, because I think put me on a stage right now, it would be the most uncoordinated thing you've ever seen. But I think, I don't know. I was always a dancer. I think mum and dad thought I was going to be dancing. I was doing it probably 5 days a week. I was in the troops. I was doing all different types of stuff. Mum wasn't probably the best dance mum. I think she's rather being a kind of motorsport mum. Obviously, that's what she knows. But, I just kind of had a go, and I didn't want to dance anymore. It kind of just fell out of love with it and just started to love motorsport. So, I don't know, just flicked the switch and now we're here.
It's interesting. Your story is kind of parallel to another female Australian race driver who's done great things in the past, and that's Leanne Ferrier. She's now back to her married name, or her maiden name, I'm sorry. Leanne started her career around the same time she was doing artistic gymnastics, I think, from memory, and then she was at a career crossroads where she had to make a choice on which path she was going to do sporting-wise, and in the end, she ended up doing motorsport, and she went on to do some really great things across many facets of the sport, including Formula 3, which she nearly won the Australian title. And you were only a baby in nappies when all that happened, when Leanne almost won the Australian Drivers' Championship. So you're following in some very good company there.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Leanne now because obviously her kids started racing at the track in Melbourne. So we met them through there, met Garth as well. And I actually went to WA to kind of learn how to drive a car, did all the manual Formula Ford, typical Australian kind of first getting into a race car. And her photo was up on the wall there, and they were like, oh, she won this championship. And I kind of saw that. I was like, wow, I'm doing what she did. And it was kind of like the kind of same pathway. And yeah, I've spoken to her a couple of times. She's always been really, really supportive. She's a lovely lady.
Yeah, she's a fantastic ambassador for the sport. I want to ask you, who do you look up to? Not just females, but also just across the board in motorsport. It can be domestic, it can be international. Who are the drivers that you look up to and say, I want to be like them?
When I was at home and I kind of thought that I was going to be doing the V8 route, and then I saw McLaughlin go to IndyCar, I kind of always had my eyes on IndyCar. So I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to do what he's done. And then coming over to Europe now, I love Max Verstappen just because of the way he is off track, and he's just so brutal and just honest, and I just think it's so funny. And I just love the way he needs to drop 2 tenths and he just goes out and does it. He's just got that natural kind of ability to go do that. And then growing up, it was kind of always mum, because I never really had like another female to look up to. When I started watching the women's series back when that was kind of a thing, I did love Jamie Chadwick just because she was probably the one winning everything. So I was like, I want to be like her. I want to win everything.
She was very competitive and she's very good. We do know that for a fact.
Yeah, she's probably done the most that I've seen that any other female has probably done in the sport. So, you know, she's doing a lot and she's had success in pretty much everything that she's done. So I kind of looked up to her as well as a kind of female model. But yeah, I think I liked what McLaughlin did through the V8s when that was a pathway that we were going to be taking. I also love Verstappen just because I'm a Verstappen fan.
That kind of hurts a bit, as a fellow Aussie. I thought you might have been supporting Oscar Piastri.
Look, the Aussies, Aussies back Aussies, so
Of
yes. But you know, Max has got TAG, so
of course.
But yeah, I've had many over the years. I think it kind of changes every now and then. I love Danica as well, but yeah, I think I've got quite a few.
It's interesting you mentioned Danica Patrick because obviously she's done great things not just in IndyCar but also NASCAR. And of course now she's an expert analyst for Sky Sports F1's coverage. So are you looking forward to potentially meeting up with Danica or bumping into her at some point and maybe asking her for a little bit of advice, career advice on where to go in your career?
I think if I saw her, I would have just run up to her and asked for a photo and selfie. But yeah, I've actually been hoping to meet her. I think I was looking for her at Shanghai and stuff, but she wasn't there. So, you know, hopefully she's at Miami. I think maybe she would be because it's USA. And yeah, I think it'd be awesome to meet her and just get a bit of inspiration.
That's cool. Actually, I want to touch on the V8 route. So obviously you've done karting here in Australia and you've been very successful in the karting route. When you were looking at going down the supercars route, what kind of categories were you looking at? Were you potentially looking at doing Formula 4? Were you looking at doing the Toyota GR Cup? Or was it something else you were looking at that point when you were looking at supercars?
I think when I did do that Formula Ford testing, and I did, I think, 2 races in WA, mainly it was just for me to learn how to drive a car. And I think that's where we kind of we're starting to take that step. We never really discussed it because I did the 2 races and then I had the opportunity with Alpine and I was straight over to Europe back in a kart full time. So I think it probably would have been Formula Ford and then maybe 86s, and from then on in just keep going up, maybe, Super 3, Super 2 and V8s. But I think we never really planned it out because everything just happened so fast, and the next thing we knew we were over in Europe. So, yeah, I got not much of a pathway for that, but I think it probably would have been just the typical go to a Formula Ford and then hop into Tim Top and just hack around.
But for you, it worked out much better because obviously the opportunity with Alpine came up with the Race Her program through karting, and that program has been going since 2022, and Alpine's been going for more than 70 years. So, for a very long time, it's been part of the Renault the brand landscape for a long time. But it's interesting to note that in the 75 years in Formula One, only 6 drivers have made from 6 women, I should say, have made Formula One out of the 885 or more drivers that have contested Formula One, and only 1 driver has scored only half a point, and that was Lella Lombardi, and that was a very long time, more than 50 years. So for the Alpine to really embrace having women in motorsport in a driving perspective and trying to push having more women in Formula One, it must have given you a newfound confidence that they were going to back you all the way to get to the F1 Academy program like they have in recent times.
There's so many female programs out there now that I think everyone's kind of jumped on it and they want to help the girls get somewhere. Alpine, obviously for me, that was what first got me pushing and started. And then obviously we parted ways with them, and it was a big leap of faith just to jump in a car and hope for the best in a way. But, without that program, I probably wouldn't be here. And then obviously getting the F1 Academy seat, F1 Academy's got such a good program in place where it's making the series as budget friendly as possible, getting the girls the viewing and the obviously streaming at the F1 weekends and getting their names out there for potential sponsors to come on board and help the girls continue through the sport, because I think that is really the only thing that's holding a female from getting to Formula One is not having the backing to continue in the sport, because you've got potential sponsors out there that want to jump on board, but there's no female in there for them to look at in Formula One and go, okay, that's the journey we're going to take with her and that's the end result we're going to get to. So it's kind of hard to approach a sponsor and say, I want to get to Formula One, and they don't have a kind of end result that they can see. So you've got to find those brands and those partners that want to just take a bit of a leap of faith and jump on board with you. And I think F1, being in F1 Academy now, it's helping me get those sponsors on board, because, you're at the F1 weekend, you're getting kind of the same viewing as you would in an F1 car. You're getting the support, you're getting the media, and, you got to perform at the end of the day. That's probably the last part. But, all these programs are trying to push the girls into F1 Academy so then we can continue throughout the sport.
How did you discover the F1 Academy program? Like, when did this opportunity come forward to you during the end of 2024 to get that full-time drive? Like, how did this all come about for you? We
kind of sat down as a family, and when we did do the first F4 test, and I think we realised how much it was going to cost. That's why we kind of had the V8 route planned out at home, because we don't have the money to go and do an F4 series. That's why I'm not doing another one at the moment, just because we're still waiting to get some sponsors behind me to go do some test days and stuff. So we kind of sat down and we were like, we need to get an F1 Academy for you to continue. Otherwise, we can't do it by ourselves. It's pretty much impossible. And, my brother as well, before he had the Mercedes gig, we sat down with him, and to race karts in Europe these days, it's not cheap. It's probably nearly double to triple what it is at home to be in a top competitive team. So, he's now have the backing from Mercedes, which has helped him, and he's doing a great job. He's performing and just won the round of Europeans. So, he's getting the results, he's getting the backing and the help from Mercedes. So for me, we needed the help from F1 Academy, and then hopefully we'd get the sponsors on board to continue. So we kind of sat down and said, we're going to push for this. We had about 8 test days And then the Indian F4, obviously we did the shootout. We got a good deal with the Indian F4, which I think it kind of rounded up to pretty much 1 or 2 rounds of British for the whole 6 rounds. So it was a pretty good deal for how many laps we were getting in behind the scenes. And then that was pretty much it. I probably had 1 or 2 test days after that, which compared to some of the girls on the grid that's got 5 years experience, it's not much. So,
It's not much at all, but at least you got some experience behind you at least.
yeah. And then we just sat and waited, and I probably did the best job I could with the time that we had. And it was enough. And now we're just kind of sitting and waiting for those sponsors to jump on board while we're racing and trying to do as best that we can do.
I kind of feel that your objective to get the sponsors that you need to go further outside of F1 Academy seems a little bit more easier now by the virtue of Oscar and Jack Doohan doing Formula One now. And obviously both of them went down virtually the same path as you. Both came out of karting. They went into open wheelers. They travelled overseas to do open wheelers. And I know Oscar did Formula 4 in the United Arab Emirates. Jack went to Europe and did all the open wheeler stuff there. And they all had, I guess, the same kind of struggles that you're going through right now, but their path now, they're in Formula One and they're now getting the recognition, the sponsors and everything. But do you think that their success is helping people like yourself getting the sponsors that you need to continue your motorsport journey in Europe?
I definitely think it has an impact because they are Aussies. So, you approach Australian brands and they see the Aussies. Obviously, Oscar just won the other weekend. So you just see the Aussies up the front, and it helps not only me and obviously the other girls in trying to get the way through Formula, but all the other Aussie kids that are coming through, both men and female, kind of helps them have also someone to look up to because, it's a fellow Aussie support Aussies. It's kind of, it's just the way things go. But then to have the sponsors see that and go, oh, that's another Australian. They're doing well in the sport. Hopefully, if we want to back her, she can do well. So, I think it helps to a point. Hopefully, it has a bit more of an impact than, then we can get those sponsors on board.
Absolutely. And it's also good that you've got another Aussie on the grid in F1 Academy and Joanne Ciccone, who is obviously trying to achieve the same goal as you. Have you two sort of cobbled together and supported one another on this journey? Or is it more of a case that you do support one another, but you're both racing individually for yourself? You've got your own individual goals.
Well, we are in separate teams. So, we're not in the same team. We're
Of course.
Every team kind of sticks to. Obviously, we're Aussies, fellow Aussies. We were at the Australian Grand Prix together. We did the grid walk. I think we were both just in shock. We were having so much fun. We've kind of grown up through the sport together. She's always been that little bit younger than me. So, she kind of raced my brother a bit more than she raced me. I don't think I actually kind of crossed paths because she is that little bit younger. Mm-hmm. So I was always kind of in the category above. And then by the time we both kind of got to seniors, I think we were both over here. I was racing karts and then she was kind of doing her program. So, we both support each other, both see each other at track, hang out a little bit. But, when it's race time, I think all the girls, it's race time no matter where anyone's from. But, yeah, we're Aussies at the end of the day and Aussies stick together.
They sure do. I want to focus on the championship right now. 2 rounds in, we've been to Shanghai and we've also been to Jeddah. Next weekend, you're racing in Miami for the 3rd round of the championship. And it's Miami's a big deal because it's obviously the first of 3 races actually in the United States for the World Championship. But for you're racing on the East Coast of America. Miami is like an epicenter of all the rich and famous. It's one of the most glamorous events. And you're going to be seen by millions of people, not just thousands of people around the track, but millions of people around the world. And you're going up against some very, very good names in there. Looking at the names like Nicole Havda, Nina Gatterman, Courtney Crone, Charlie Chambers, Rafaela Ferreira, Alba Larson, and of course, Leah Block, who of course is Carnicross royalty, and of course, her dad being the late Ken Block. And then of course, you've got Tina Hausman, the Swiss driver who's representing Aston Martin. I mean, just looking at the names on the grid here, there is some really, really impressive names on the grid, all bringing a lot of their own experiences onto a grid, all racing in identical cars and showing their own strengths and weaknesses. I mean, do you sometimes spin out at the prospect that you're racing against some very, very talented women?
I think when I first kind of saw the list of names for this year's grid, I was like, okay, this grid's like probably one of the best grids that they've had, just because of the females that have come through. And I think it's probably, in my opinion, it's one of the strongest female grids probably F1 Academy's probably ever seen, just because the girls that have come through, they've been in cars for 3 or 4+ years. Everyone's got pretty good experience. Obviously, you got the rookies here and there, but it's just growing and growing. And I think being in that grid and seeing the field, I kind of knew it was going to be tough. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough year just being a rookie in that big of a field. You've got Maya Werg and Dorianne Pinn. It's their second year, same as Tina. So to have those kind of girls that are already on their second year, it kind of gives you something to strive for your second year. And, you hope that this is your learning year and then next year we dominate. So just to see, the grid, I looked at it and I was like, okay, this is gonna be a tough year.
It is going to be, as you said, a tough year. And it has been a little bit tough for the beginning of your Formula One Academy career. First race of the season, you finished in fact, you actually finished in the top 10. So you finished in 8th in the opening race of the season in Shanghai. And then in the second race, you finished outside of the top 10. You finished in 13th. Then you went to Jeddah for round 2, which was only last weekend. And of course, in the first race in Jeddah, you finished in 14th position. And then in the second race, you finished 17th. In a field of 18 cars, and again, some very, very competitive names. But like you said, it's only the beginning of your F1 Academy journey. So you see this, I guess, as more of a learning year for you, or you're there to try and get as much points as possible and build upon that for maybe a second season next year?
It's definitely a learning year, just because obviously we haven't had much time to prepare or as many laps as some of the girls out there. So we're working as hard as we possibly can behind the scenes. And with the team, it's kind of their learning year as well. So, we're hoping midway through the season, by the time we get to Zandvoort, that we've got the car figured out and, we're getting better as drivers. Also, Nicole as well, I think she's kind of taking it as a bit of a learning year too, because the team's new. So it is kind of hard when you've got a new team and then you've got rookie drivers in there that don't know as much as you say the drivers would have on their second year. If you had one of them in our team, then obviously they could give their knowledge and development to the team and kind of make it better faster in a way.
Yeah.
So, we're relying on High Tech. High Tech's probably one of the best teams in the Formula categories all the way up to F2. So, they're always at the front. They know what they're doing. They're figuring it out. We have to probably just learn as fast as we possibly can. And just try and progress every round. Obviously, last round we struggled a little bit. Last race, I made a mistake at the start. I think half the grid pretty much did. I think it was like 8 of us that stalled. So underestimated the grip on the track, stalled. It was a mistake on my behalf, but our pace in that last race probably would have been around that 11th to 14th. So, you got to look at the positives that come out of the weekend as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shanghai, we scored our first point. It was a bit of a crash fest of a race weekend, but we kept our nose clean and stayed out of it. So, and then we got our first point. But Jeddah was a tough one. Hopefully Miami next week. We've done sim prep. I'm on the sim pretty much every single day, 24/7 in the gym. I pretty much eat, sleep, and breathing Miami till I get there. And then hopefully by the weekend, we can get some better results and get maybe inside that top 10 or just under.
So what do you normally do? You mentioned that you do the work on the sim, and you also do your training, you go to the gym, and you do all of that. Is that what typically happens during a weekend off from a round of the F1 Academy? You just do all the sim work, go to the workshop, debrief with the mechanics and the team managers and the like, do your training in the gym, look after your nutrition. Is that all you do? Or what else do you do in between races?
I landed on Monday morning. I think I got home about 5 a.m. from Jeddah. I had that Monday rest of the day, and then Tuesday I was at Malpensa Airport flying to the UK. Did a day on the sim with high tech, flew back, and now I'm here on the sim at home training. Just pretty much pretty much eat, gym, sim, sleep. That's it. Watching the races from last year, watching as many laps as we can find. I think just trying to. Obviously, we don't have testing for this track either. So you're going there and you got to hop on track. You got 2 practices and that's it. You got to go into qualifying. So trying to absorb as much information and learn the track in so many different ways. And obviously the simulator is so good for that because it's the best kind of reference you can get to driving on a track. But then also watching the races, seeing where passing maneuvers can be done, seeing, the start, seeing everything and trying to absorb it all. So then when you get out there, it's like you've already been there.
After Miami, you've got 4 more rounds to go. You've got to go to Montreal for, I think it was on the Monarchs long weekend back home in Australia, and that's in Canada. That is going to be a good event because it's around the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and that, like Miami, is a temporary circuit. So you've got to learn all that on the sim, but then you get to go to Zandvoort, which is a permanent circuit, and I don't think you've had the chance to race there as yet, but I'm pretty sure you're keen to really sink your teeth into that. Then you go to Singapore, which will be the closest thing to a home race for you, but that'll be in the first weekend of October, and then back to America for Las Vegas. So a lot of these tracks, are all street circuits, but what do you like to do? Do you like street circuits more, or do you prefer the permanent road courses? What's your favourite?
I like a mix of both. Obviously this year it's mainly street circuit, but it's at the end of the day, it's a racetrack. The street circuits are obviously not as forgiving as a normal racetrack. You can go a bit over the curb and you drop your wheel in the dirt. This, you go over the curb and you're in a wall. So there's a bit of a difference. But we did Jeddah, and Jeddah's the fastest street circuit in the world. So if we can do that, I think any other street circuit's going to be a bit easier than that. But I'm enjoying it. It's a whole different experience than whatever I've done before. I probably before had doing this, I've driven on about 3 racetracks. So, now I'm learning all these different tracks the best that we possibly can. And I do like the street circuits at night. When I did that at Jeddah, I was like, this is awesome. This is just a whole different experience. I'm really excited for Vegas as well because I have raced the Screws and Nats in karts there twice. So to be racing on the street pretty much next door to the kart track where they would do it, it's like I've just leveled up and I'm in the car now. I'm on the street doing the racetrack instead of in the car park at the go-kart track. So I'm super pumped for Vegas, do that under lights as well. Yeah, I think the street circuits are kind of taking my favour at the moment.
They certainly are. And you also will get to race under lights in Singapore as well, which is not something you get to do all the time too. So, that's a win for you.
Yeah, definitely. And I've been to the Singapore Grand Prix before. I was probably about 12. All I can remember is being jet lagged and sleeping through qualifying, and everyone was looking at me like, how am I sleeping while there's fast cars going around? I'm like, this is relaxing for me. But I was out grandstand, I think, from like 3 minutes into qualifying, and Mum and Dad were looking at me like there's something wrong with her. But it was a great Grand Prix.
Oh, so that would have been, when was that? That would have been 2020, was it? No, it was 2019. So that would have been the 2019 Grand Prix. Wow. Geez, are you still pinching yourself there that back in 2019 you were there in the grandstand, and then later in the year, in October, you're going to be on the grid in Singapore racing around the streets there?
I think I'm having pitch me moments like every single round we have, because when I first came to the UK at the start of 24, I was with my driver coach and manager, Tom Williamson, and my mum, and we were driving around Silverstone because obviously Alpine's near there. We were going to explore the factory and stuff. And we drove past High Tech, and I took a photo of High Tech, and I was like, that's High Tech, the race team. Like, that's insane. We saw the outside of the factory. I was like, it must be so cool in there. And then I was standing outside it when I first went there. I was like, I'm part of this team now. Like, I've gone from standing outside this factory saying, oh my God, it's such a cool team, to being involved in this team and working with the team and the engineers and everything, and my cars being worked on in this factory. And then I was sitting on the grid before qualifying, and Lewis Hamilton walked out of his garage and waved to me. And I was like,
that's cool.
Like, I'm on the grid in the pit lane and Lewis Hamilton's standing right there and I'm about to go drive. Like, it kind of, in the moment, I was just looking at it and I'm like, oh my God. And then I had to go drive and then I was kind of had to flick out of that zone. But I think every round I'm just sitting there looking around. I'm like, this is insane.
That's really cool. I wish I was in your position where I could go, oh my God, this is utterly amazing. So, yeah, I'm envious of you right now.
I think it was Shanghai and I drove out in the first FP practice and the first 3 laps, my engineer was on the radio and he's like, Aiva, come on, we're going to get moving. And I was like, okay. Well, I was looking in the grandstand, looking at all the people. Like, I was just, obviously, first time I've ever driven in a Grand Prix. I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is insane. So he got on the radio. He's like, all right, we're going to get moving now. And I was like, okay, switch off. We're going to get driving. We'll take it in later. But yeah, it's been an awesome experience.
I want to ask you, just before we move on to the Dream Garage, you are only 17 and you don't have your normal road license as yet. So you'll be 18 later this year. Are you champing at the bit to try and go for your normal driver's license at some point? Or are you just happy to just ride the wave of driving race cars all the time and wait for the opportunity when it comes?
I want my license. I want to be able to drive myself places, just to be able to kind of do, because Mum wants me to get it as well. She's just open to me driving everywhere. Like, I would go to the gym about 6:30, 7 in the morning, and I just walk there because she's still asleep. And I'm like, this is the moments where I need my license when it's raining and I need to get to the gym or get somewhere or get to a meeting. I'm doing my hours as best as I can. I think I'll get it probably once. Got to organise a time for me to go back to Australia, obviously, to do the test and everything. But yeah, as soon as I turn 18, I'm getting it.
This is the Motor Dream Podcast.
You obviously love motorsport, and you do. I think I have an inkling that you really do like cars as well. Actually, I want to ask you, did cars come to you at a young age? Like, obviously born into a motorsport family, did you really like cars at a young age, or did that come a little bit later when you started to get into motorsport?
It was a little bit later. Obviously, Dad kind of had always been around cars, but I think Mum, when she had us, she kind of closed that door to motorsport. Like, Dad would always watch the V8s and, you know, be on the TV everywhere, so we knew what it was. But I never really kind of had any interest. I was that little 3-year-old playing with Barbie dolls and, you know, princess dresses and all that type of stuff. And then obviously I started dancing, so motorsport didn't really have anything to do. And then Dad actually brought Mum's go-kart back for a birthday present on Mother's Day. I think it was one of the two. And then that's when we started to get back into it. And from 6 or 5, I was at the track every weekend. So it kind of just switched. There wasn't really a point where I was kind of into, you know, playing with Hot Wheels and all that type of stuff. When I did have a brother, I think he played with like Barbie dolls because he had nothing else. And then we got him his own toys. And then it was obviously all cars. So then I was absorbed in the cars. But yeah, I never really had much of an interest in playing, you know, watching Lightning McQueen or doing any of that stuff till I probably got involved in karts.
Okay, so what about now? Like, do you have like pictures of cars on your phone, or do you like try and go to like car meets and whatever and just try and like fascinate over what you would love to have one day?
Fast and Furious has been my favourite movie from, I think I was like 9. So I've watched the whole series through about, I'd say 20 times, like every single show 20 times.
Really?
Never gets old. Every single time I watch it, I'm like, I want that Dodge Charger that, I don't know what the actor's name is, but it's, you know, Toretto in the movie.
Yeah, Vin Diesel.
I've loved that Dodge Charger. I went through a phase where I wanted a Skyline, and then I kind of, now obviously looking at the more luxurious cars, you know, Porsche 911, you know, all that type of stuff, maybe a Mercedes GLA 63. My mum had that, and I was like, I drove my hours before we left home in that car, and I was like, this is a sick car, like it's fast.
Okay, so that's so hang on. So normally we try and dig into see what makes you tick as a car person. So you've just admitted the first car you drove before you went to Europe, you're obviously on your L's, was a Mercedes-Benz. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was a V8 AMG G63 V8 twin turbo.
How many people at 17 years of age get to drive an AMG C63 with a 6.2 litre V8, but has 6.3 litre badging. I mean, I love that car. I mean, I'm a fan of that C63, but I can't think of anyone else at 17 years of age on their L's learning to drive in such a car like that. That just boggles my mind.
I think I hopped in it, and Mum always, when she put her foot down, obviously she raced, so she knows how to drive a car.
Of course,
you do the school runs and through the back streets, and you'd be holding on a little bit. But I put my foot down at the lights, and I went from 0 to like 100. I was like, oh my god, like this thing's got some waft to it. So it was fast, and I just loved driving it. And I think I was driving to school. I was driving my brother's school. Mum obviously was in the passenger seat, and my friends were also driving to school. And they just saw me, like, obviously I kind of know how to drive, right? So I was weaving through, kind of getting through the traffic and stuff, and I passed my friend. And I got there about 15 minutes before she did, and I left about 5 minutes later than she did. And she walked up to me at school and goes, "You're crazy." I was like, "Why?" And she's like, "Because the way you were driving is just not okay. You should not know how to drive like that." I was like, "Well, I'm following the law. I was in the speed limit. I just got there efficiently." She was like, "You're insane." And her mum was like, "Girl, you know how to drive." I was like, "Thank you."
You obviously learned in good company, that's for sure. So you obviously are learning for your mum and dad. Have you taken any professional lessons before you went to Europe?
No. My grandma drove me around when I went back home. Just in a normal road car. I've obviously formula stuff. I've had the coaching that I've had. Tom Williamson has probably been. I've been with Tom since I was about 8. So, he's like my second dad. We pretty much classify him as family. He's on the phone every day, making sure we're okay, just talking, rubbish. But then when it comes to race weekend, he knows what he's talking about. He's got Cody Gillis in Super 2s. He's worked with Macaulay Jones, who's in the V8s. He's got kids coming through in the Toyota 86. And now he's got me in F1 Academy. He's got my brother in not V8 supercars, Mercedes AMG program, the Formula One group, and he's dominating in the Europe karting. So, I think he knows what he's doing. And, to have someone like him with so much experience and so many connections just helping you and backing you, it's probably the best coach I could ask for.
I think we need to get him on the pod. I think that would be really cool, just to get from his perspective what it's like to be a driver coach. And I have a feeling that he would like his cars as well. So, Tom, if you're listening, we'd like to get you on at one point. All right. Do you remember the first road trip that you remember growing up? Like the first road trip that you can remember, like say if you went to a race meeting, to a kart meeting, or going like your first European road trip that you've done since you got to Europe?
We road trips when we were in Australia everywhere. We had a caravan, and then we had a van that we filled the carts with. So we transported our own stuff. I think my main one that I remember, it probably wasn't our first, but when lockdown hit, we had a national championship to get to in Queensland, and they were locking Melbourne down when I think the rest of Australia was open.
Was that in 2020?
I think so. Maybe late 21 when they were still I think it was like lockdown 6 or whatever it was.
Oh, yes.
Probably one of the worst times in Melbourne's history, but, we got through it. I got a notification, and we kind of knew that lockdown was coming. So the van was loaded, caravan was loaded, suitcase was packed. We were just waiting to say, all right, you've got to get there by this time. And I was at school, and it popped up on my notification, lockdown by 12 p.m. tonight. You have to either be in or out of the state. If you're in the state, you're locked down. And then as soon as that notification popped up, the teacher walked in, "Aiva, you're leaving." I was like, all right, sweet, see yous. I'm out. I'm going to Queensland. And I think we got to Queensland at literally 11:45 p.m. And then probably was one of the best road trips. I think we did 2 pit stops, about 3 minutes each, fueled up, got a sandwich, and just kept going. And as a family, I think it was probably one of the funnest road trips we've done. Our trailer was falling apart, so we stopped and had to duct tape it together. Oh, no. And we were just nailing it there. We got there in the end, and then we went to the water park the next day. So, it was pretty good reward. And then, we pretty much just drove everywhere. In Australia, I think karting's a bit different to Europe. Europe, you got to fly everywhere, and you go in Spain and all these different places. And I think it's a bit more professional, which Australia, it's professional, but, you know, you can camp at the track. You get along with your whole race team. You go do barbecues. Like once we had a Dubbo test camp in the middle of New South Wales and nowhere, obviously Dubbo, Australia, it's pretty much the middle of nowhere.
I've been to Dubbo. I know what Dubbo's like.
Yeah. And everyone was camping. My dad, he's Greek, so he threw a spit. We had souvlaki for dinner. Everyone was sitting around the fire. It was just an awesome weekend. You know, we'd wake up in the morning, we'd train, do our training, be on track all day, and then do another training session at the end of the day. It was a big boot camp. I think we were all cooked by the end of it. And then in Australia, I think I've driven to Italy and UK back and forth about 8 times because we're moving all our stuff from the UK to Italy. So we drove up and down. I think I could drive there by myself. I know the way that much. Yeah. But, you know, me and Dad did a couple of trips to Genk from the UK, which you do the kind of underneath tunnel that goes under the water from the UK to France. First time I hopped, I thought it was going to be this cool thing where it's like glass and you can see outside, and I thought it was going to be like a cool train. It just looked like they've taken the chairs out of a Melbourne train and you just drive your car under it. So it was a bit disappointing. But
tunnels are not that impressive, I can assure you. Like if you do the Sydney Harbour Tunnel or something like I do here in Sydney, it's not that. Even like the West Connects back in Sydney, like it's not overly that impressive. It's just a tunnel. You don't see anything glass-wise or whatever. It's very boring.
We're underwater and it's the middle of the ocean. I could do something cool, but no, I just had no internet for 45 minutes and then we're on the other side. But driving through the Swiss Alps and everything, that's been kind of cool just to see that part of the world. And I think my brother stopped at the Nürburgring with Mum on the way to Italy one time. So you see different parts of the world that you probably wouldn't see flying in a plane. But compared to Australia, I think they were probably the best kind of road trips and camping trips that I've had in my motorsport journey so far.
It's just probably a little bit of an annoyance for you that you can't drive those cars yet because you don't have your license.
I think there's been times where Mum's like, I wish you had your license, because it's been like 12 and she's like, I can't drive anymore. And I've been like, if I were to get somewhere, I'll get somewhere. So if it's like 12 in the morning and we got to get there at 2, I'll just power through. But obviously can't do that yet. So I've got to wait a couple months and then I think I'll be the one hiking through the road trips.
I love it. What about music? Obviously on your road trips or when you're at a race meeting and you're trying to focus and you get in the zone, what kind of music do you like to listen to on a road trip or when you're in a race meeting trying to get yourself in the zone?
Road trip, I'm probably just asleep while my music's going. So it's pretty much just going through all the playlists.
As you do.
Pre-race, majority of the time it's like techno house music just to like get me like hyped up. In the mornings I also kind of put them in so you can just get into that zone and it's just kind of playing. It kind of relaxes me. I do have like a playlist that's about 12 hours long of just songs. I probably need to clean it out because I don't listen to half of them in there. But I do like my R&B. I do like Biggie Smalls, Eminem, all them. Also obviously modern like Drake and Kendrick Lamar and all them as well. It's pretty much a mix, but before the race it's definitely like techno house. Probably need to pop in some SoundCloud in there to get some good stuff. But
drum and bass, yeah I get it. I'm impressed you like Biggie Smalls and Tupac and all those, like old school rap. I mean, that's not bad. I mean, I'm a rocker, but I don't mind some old school.
Smooth FM on the radio, so it was kind of just that I know pretty much every like R&B old kind of song because of that radio station.
Well, we've got Smooth here in Sydney, so yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Who were your idols growing up? And it doesn't have to be motorsport idols, but who were your idols growing up?
Like in general life, just like people.
Yeah. Like who did you look up to that basically inspired you to be who you are today?
I think growing up at the racetrack, I did have obviously people like in the race team that kind of, I've always grown up around people that were kind of older than me. So, you know, in the race team, I was probably 12 and then I had mates around 14 and 15. Like, so you kind of grow up quite fast. So I was kind of always looked up to, I think, just the people around me, and you kind of just vibe them. I never really kind of looked at someone and go, I want to be like them when I'm older. It was kind of just me. Um, and then I think my brother now, I think we kind of bounce off each other and we kind of use each other's kind of strengths. And we're like, oh, I want to use that when I'm going to do this. Or we kind of learn off each other and take take each other's strengths in a way and kind of use them to kind of be a better person. But I think, I don't know, motorsport wise, obviously, like I said, my mum, but other than that, I was kind of just vibing with myself.
What about Formula One idols? Obviously you've mentioned Max Verstappen before. Are there any other Formula One drivers that you aspire to, like you look for inspiration?
I did like Danny Rick when I was growing up. Obviously, he always had that big smile. It was quite funny as well.
Oh,
I did like when Max and Ricardo were in one team. That was pretty cool. I was dancing when I was quite young, so I was kind of in that kind of bubble. But then when I did make the move to motorsport, it was pretty much Daniel Ricciardo and, Lewis Hamilton. And I think Dad was obsessed with Rosberg, so I kind of liked Rosberg. So, yeah, it was kind of just everyone. I never have had one person where I'd be like, that's exactly who I want to be like. It's kind of just take a little bit from here and there and put it all together.
All right, last question before we move on to the Dream Garage. And I have to ask this question. It is car related, but it's important. Do you remember the first time you changed a tyre?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I'm going to be completely honest here. I fully cannot put it on, but the first time that I got the rim in the tyre, I was probably 13, I think.
So you actually got a rim into the kart tyre, but you're not able to actually properly change a tyre as yet.
The thing, it depends on kind of the compound, because sometimes they're really hard and not even my dad couldn't even put the rim on.
Oh,
so
wow.
Sometimes they're really hard. I've done it using the tool. I think I was about 15. I did my first tyre, putting it on, because then I got told I was in the junior category. So, start to learn how to do your own tyres and start to learn how to work on your own go-kart, which I can do majority of the things now. I think the front end kind of wheel alignment is probably the last thing I don't really understand yet, but, I want to learn how to do that. For the first time I put the tyre on, I think I was 14. But, Tom has probably based the kart team. You got every kid. There's no kid sitting around doing nothing. You're always doing something on your kart. And when I came over to Europe, I would start undoing the tyres, undoing the axle, undoing the engine and cleaning it. And they would just look at me funny, and all the drivers would be sitting in the corner and the mechanic would be doing the work. And I had one of the guys come, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm working on the kart with Dad. They're like, you don't have to do that. I was like, no, I do. This is what I do. This is how I've been brought up. You help and you work on your kart. And I think they were kind of in a bit of shock, because obviously Europeans, they have their mechanic and they just sit back and do nothing. But yeah, it was a bit of a culture shock for them, I think, to see everyone working. All the Aussies, when we come over, we do it. We work on our own karts. And I think it's good to learn to kind of, how to do stuff, how to take an engine off and put it back on and kind of understand the actual thing that you're driving.
And now that you've been able to take a step back, did that really confuse you a bit for a time? That once you were told you don't need to work on your kart, you can just sit back and relax. We've got it all done. Were you still itching to actually get out there and work on your kart, or did you just let them?
It nerves. I was like, oh, but if I'm help, it's going to get it done faster. And then I was doing the tyre pressures on one of the tyre, and the mechanic came over and he kind of just took it off and he's like, I'll do it. And obviously they have their ways. They want everything to be perfect. They're quite serious in Europe, so they wanted to make sure it was done right. But then I think after I did it a couple of times, they were like, okay, she knows how to do it. Just leave it. But I think it takes a while for them to kind of understand that we know what we're doing.
Okay, good. What about a normal road tyre? Do you know how to change a normal road tyre?
Not yet. I think we had a flat once and Dad kind of taught me, how to get the jack and everything. I know how to do it, but I haven't done it myself, obviously, because I had Dad there, so he can do it. But
you're going to have to do it yourself one day. I mean, if you know how to change a car tyre, I'm sure you can do a road tyre.
Yeah. I know how to change the race car tyre. It's pretty simple. The one you just zap it on, zap it off.
Perfect.
So I think I'll be fine if I ever have a flat. I'll ring that up. How do you do it? Do it.
I'm sure it's straightforward. Have you had a chance to work on actually changing a race tyre, a proper race tyre at high tech, using the rattle guns and that to try and practice? Do you join the crews to practice?
We're not allowed because obviously it's quite expensive equipment.
Yeah, of course.
But, putting it on the actual car I've done, you hand tighten it and then they'll zap it up. But, yeah, I think I want to, but I don't think we're allowed to. It's quite serious business and allowed to touch that stuff.
Of course. All right, Aiva Anagnostiadis. This is the reason why we got you on for this podcast.
Yeah.
You wake up one day and you get a text before you go to your next race meeting. Let's say you're going to Miami this weekend. Obviously, glamorous lifestyle, rich and famous. Everyone's ready to party. And as you're getting ready for the meeting, you get a text and it says, check your bank balance. And you think, oh, come on, this is a scam. This is a fake, message or whatever. And you try and ignore it, but then you get the curiosity and you decide, you know what, I'll just check my bank balance, see what it's all about. And you open up your bank app and it tells you that you basically discover your bank balance has gone to infinity levels, and you basically just fall off your chair thinking, what the hell has just happened? How did this happen? You then get an email from this mystery benefactor, and it tells you that you can buy any car, bike, or machine that you want, but you're only allowed 3 cars, bikes, or machines, can be a combination of any, in your dream garage. So with that in mind, what would the first car be in your dream garage?
Car, probably a Porsche 911.
You're one of quite a few. You're one of a few people that do say the Porsche 911. I guess it is a cold car.
I love it. I love it.
A GT3.
It's just so fun.
Is it a GT3 RS you want? Of course it is.
Yes.
Of course. Why the GT3 RS? What makes you love the GT3 RS so much?
I've kind of liked Porsches for a while. We've kind of always had like a Mercedes. Mum's always had her Mercedes. Dad's kind of always had like the Silverados, like big truck cars, like to obviously tow everything around. But Mum's kind of had the nicer car that we do the family outings in.
Yes.
But we went and looked at one, I think it was like 2 years ago, I think 23, and we went to the thing and I saw it and I was like, oh my God, I love this thing. And then they told me how fast it was. I was like, yep, sick, done. That's what I want. And then I looked at the price tag and I was like, maybe I'll have to wait till I'm a bit famous.
The cost of the Porsche 911 GT3 RS at the moment in Australia works out around about $537,000. So,
that's why I was like, maybe we have to wait till we're like Formula One level for that.
Well, there's always used models out there. So
or if the bank account thing actually happens in real life, it
wouldn't matter.
Get one.
It wouldn't matter, exactly. It wouldn't matter at all. But mind you, like I'm not necessarily a big Porsche fan, but those GT3 RSs are just so nice. They are absolutely beautiful.
They're very nice.
Yeah. What would the second car, bike, or machine be in your dream garage?
Probably the Dodge Charger, the 80 or 79 version is.
Ooh, Dodge Charger. Ooh, okay. Okay. Oh, yes, Dukes of Hazzard, of course. Dukes of Hazzard. Were your parents like, were they into Dodges growing up in Melbourne? Did they watch like Dukes of Hazzard? Or?
Dad never kind of was into it. I don't like the new ones. The new ones I don't like. I don't like the look of them. It's just the old one that I like. Like I like the Mustangs as well, the old Mustangs, but
nice.
I think a Dodge. I think it would suit me.
Oh no, it's actually really nice. I mean, it's powered by a hemispherical V8. I mean, who knows how much they are these days? But I mean, when you've got a dream garage like that, here we go. Like they're normally like a 2-door coupe. They've been a 2-door coupe for many, many years, and they've been powered. You've got a choice. You can go for a 318 cubic inch, like a 5.2 litre V8, up to a 6.6 litre V8 motor.
I think we'd go the bigger one.
The 400 cubic inch, yeah. Bigger is better, as they say in the United States, yeah. And maybe if you did it in the Dukes of Hazzard style, the General Lee car, you could get away with that perfectly. Yeah, I like
really
that.
Go wrong.
No, you can't. It's really cool. Yeah, that's or even you could even do like a Richard Petty kind of thing, like the old STP NASCAR style. Like do something like that. Could you do that?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. What about the final car, bike, or machine you'd have in your dream garage? What would it be?
I think I'd do a private jet.
Ooh. Now, I've had a few people on my pod mention like they've had boats in the past. You're the first one, or one of a few, actually.
Or a jet ski. Or a jet ski.
Ooh.
Just depends on the kind of... Maybe I can have the jet ski in the jet.
Okay, jet ski it is. What kind of jet ski would you be looking at?
I don't know. Possible.
Any jet ski.
I love driving jet skis. Any jet ski is just the fastest one. But then I think a private jet would be good as well because I think I've done 30 flights already this year. So, I think it would come in handy, but jet ski is more fun in the summer. Maybe if we can swap it around in the summer.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think what we'll do is we'll allow the jet ski in as the third machine, and then we can just add in the private jet, a private jet into the dream garage as a fourth machine. You know what?
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. Like a Dodge Charger from the 70s, Porsche 911 GT3 RS. I mean, that's just complete opposite ends of the spectrum. And then a jet ski and a private jet. I think that's just that probably suits you down to a T really well, Aiva. So, yeah, I love it. I really love it. Aiva, thank you so much for coming on and agreeing to be on the podcast. I know got a very busy schedule, and I'm very appreciative that you've been able to take some time out to chat. And we'd like to thank Simone from TOS Management to agree for you to come on the pod. So thank you so much. It's been a great joy to chat with you. Good luck for the rest of the season, and we'll definitely be cheering you on all the way from Australia to see how you go against the rest of the world in the F1 Academy. Good luck.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Aiva certainly has the love for speed and a fondness for cars to boot. I have to say, I was rather impressed that she wanted a Dodge Charger in the style of General Lee and the Dukes of Hazzard in a dream garage. It remains a cult car to fans of the show to this very day, and genuine examples are asking for around 7 figures. And her talents on the racetrack prior to joining F1 Academy have certainly been impressive. So I certainly believe that we'll be hearing a lot more of Aiva Anagnostiadis in the years to come. Before we finish up, a quick follow-up on Aiva's recent efforts in Miami. The weekend was a struggle for the 17-year-old Melbournian. An aborted fast lap in qualifying and heavy rain saw her qualify 18th and last for the opening race, but she showed some true grit to work her way up the field and finished just shy of the top 10 in 13th place. Unfortunately, monsoonal rain for race 2 made track conditions extremely dangerous and forced race officials to abandon the race. She and the 17 other Formula One Academy drivers will now turn their focus to Canada for round 4 of the championship in mid-June, supporting the Formula One Canadian Grand Prix. You can watch all the rounds of the Formula One Academy live and ad-free on Fox Sports 506 and on KO. And make sure you check out the 7-part documentary series F1 The Academy on Netflix from May 28. Also, be sure to follow Aiva on Instagram and TikTok. We've put the links in the show notes as well as the Motor Dream podcast website. A huge thank you to Aiva for her time and an extended thank you to Simone Landers and Joseph Della Massa at TLS Talent for facilitating the interview. Be sure to check out the show website at www.themotordream.com.au, where you can listen to past episodes, find out more information on each of our guests, and also on the show itself. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram with the handle The Motor Dream, and you can start a conversation about your dream garage by using the hashtag The Motor Dream. Or better still, drop us a line on what your dream garage would be. Our email is themotordream@beastproductions.com.au. Lastly, make sure you like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or YouTube Music. Thanks for listening to the Motor Dream podcast, and remember, please drive or ride safely out on the roads wherever you go. We'll be back for another episode in a couple of weeks' time, where my guest will be Formula One photographer and businessman Kim Illman. Until then, we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Motor Dream podcast. This series is proudly produced by Beast Productions.